Today we're going to look at possessable and spawnable objects in Sequencer and talk about what they are and why you would use one or the other. Hey, welcome to Real Time Workflows. I'm MX Bell. I worked on Deadpool and Wolverine, Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, 1917, Hobbs and Shaw, Wheel of Time, Little Mermaid, No Time to Die, tons more. What you're going to get on the channel are my pro tips and how I use Unreal Engine to make films. So let's get started. Let's make some stuff. See you down the road. Welcome back to Real Time Workflows. I am MX Bell. And this is a really important concept, and actually I breezed over it on another video, and I made a clip, like a shorts video of it, and I don't really do the shorts anymore. But that one short gets quite a lot of views, and I don't think you can, I wasn't really explaining it properly, I just kind of breezed across it and clipped it into a short. So let's look at it properly and look at it in the context of the work I'm doing for SALIENT. So right here I've got the makings of a shot. We can see here, this is for scene 73, shot 10, version 1, naming convention that I discussed in a previous video. And what I've got here is, so far, just a single character in the shot, and he runs across and jumps and dives down there. Okay? So, currently, he is possessable. Now we know he's possessable because it doesn't have a little lightning bolt here. And the way to get him, the way I got him in was he actually lives in this character's sublevel. So if I hide the sublevel, you see he disappears. And I've possessed him from that sublevel. Now the first thing to understand about possessing objects and which objects you should possess. Metahumans are really heavy, and you don't want to be spawning them in and out. Okay, because when you've got an edit of shots together, if you're spawning those things in and out, it's going to get heavy. It's going to stutter every time you get to a cut, because it's going to unspawn them and then spawn them back into a new sequence. So my first piece of advice is for metahumans only. Your other characters, it doesn't really matter. You can spawn those in and out. They're nice and light if they're especially like such a mix mode characters, things like that. But metahumans and heavy characters like metahumans, put them in a sub-level, and then you possess them from that sub-level. If I close Sequencer now, we'll see that because I've possessed him, he'll actually return to his original point, which is he actually sits over here at this is the world origin. So that's where he lives, and obviously that's he's in this level. And then when we open this sequencer, the sequencer possesses him and moves him to where I've got him keyframed in sequencer. Okay, so he's keyframed down here, and then he pops to this position. Recommended standard practice for metahumans. Now, what about other stuff? Well, let's start working through the shot, and we'll make a call on what things need to be spawnable, which need to be possessable. So again, to clarify, spawnable means the level sequence itself is going to spawn an object. You're gonna animate that object just inside that level sequence, and then when the level sequence is not loaded anymore, those objects will be unspawned. So the decision you have to make is, if it's spawnable, it's probably in less than 50% of the shots, or less than a certain amount of shots that you figure out. Okay, that you can figure out kind of what your tolerance level is. Now, again, for metahumans, get them in a level, and they can be in every shot. I would recommend actually that when they're not loaded, that they don't sit there at the world origin, right? Because every time you've got a metahuman, let's say you've got in this film, there's going to be probably at least a dozen metahumans, right? They're all going to be gathered here. And what you don't want to have to do is to turn them off each time. So every time I create a new shot, we're going to have all our metahumans will all be gathered here. His head's come off, that's weird. All our metahumans will be gathered here, and I'm going to have to go through one by one and move them. Alright, so the best thing to do with the metahuman is to get them out of the way. I would advise when you put your characters in, I would just drop them down so that they're out of sight, so they're underneath the level basically, just so they're hidden. And then when we open our level, the level possesses them, the ones that you need, and moves them to where they should be. And when the level's not open, we can see he's down here, he's out of sight, he's out of the way. So that's good. That's what we want. Right. So what's going to be spawnable? Well, what about a camera? No, actually, there's an argument for you're going to have a camera in every scene. Now, let's say, as is the case actually with Salient, we don't know what kind of camera it's going to be yet. We don't know if it's going to be a Sony Venice or an Arri Alexa. We don't know yet. So if I was to create a spawnable camera in every shot, at some point when we've made a decision about the camera, I'm going to have to go through every shot I've created and change the type of camera in every shot. Whereas if we were simply possessing a camera that existed in a sublevel, actually, I could just change it once and that will change it in every single shot. Now, I'm going to have to go through every single shot and just check that the change of camera and the change of film back and center size hasn't kind of ruined the shot. So there's an argument for a camera either way. At some point, I'm going to have to go through every shot if I change the kind of camera. And given that we don't know what kind of camera it is, I'm going to have to do that anyway. So it's kind of 6 1, half a dozen of the other. I'll leave it up to you. I like spawnable cameras, I'll be honest, because I think that I worry that I'm going to lose something, maybe, or whatever. For me, spawnable is safer. Spawnable is a safer option. When you possess something, you always run the risk if you've got to be kind of alert as to what you're doing, because what you don't want to do is accidentally possess something, move it in the level, and then it stays moved. You didn't maybe you didn't possess it, but you moved it in the level thinking it was possessed, and actually you've moved it in the level entirely, and then that could potentially break other things. So my advice is spawnable where possible, possessable when necessary. I'm glad let's just make sure we caption that. Spawnable where possible, possessable when necessary. I like that. I've just come up with that on the fly. Very good. Okay. So let's say our camera is going to be spawnable. All right. So we can hit this button to make a spawnable camera. And the other thing that a spawnable camera, when you do that, is going to create this camera cuts track. I mentioned this in another lesson, but just so it's clear here, what this does, you can edit this. You could create multiple cameras and you can have camera cuts inside a shot. I do not recommend it. I would advise you don't do it. What this does to me is tell me if there's multiple cameras in this shot, which I advise against. I advise having multiple cameras in the shot. But if there's multiple cameras in the shot, then this is simply telling Unreal, basically, which camera of the ones that are available we're using in this shot. So it shouldn't have cuts in it. So while you can edit inside this you should think of this as a shot and not a sequence. It's a shot. So I'm just going to move my camera. I'm not going to worry too much about what the camera move's doing right now because I don't want to. Well, I'm just going to move it somewhere where I can kind of see what's going on. So he runs and that. So let's just put the camera here for now. Give ourselves a little frame there. Okay. And I might make it just a touch wider. Just for now, I'm not designing the shot yet. I just want the camera just so we've got one in the thing. So that's that. That's a camera that just shows what the action is. It's not the shot. I'm not worrying about it right now. All right. So we've got a spawnable camera and a possessable character. Now what else do we need to do? Right. Well, we need to set the time of day. Now this is scene 73, and I know in my script, scene 73, and the script says Burke running away as a grenade goes off and a sudden blanket of yellow-green gas floods the German trench, rising up high behind him like a green mushroom cloud, and he dives to the no man's land dirt. So we've got that action for Burke. Although this character is called Tommy, I haven't made specific metahumans for each specific character yet. I've just got this kind of one generic Tommy soldier. Tommy was the one of the sort of colloquial names for a British soldier in World War One, a Tommy. So that's why he's called Tommy. I'm just using him as a stand-in for now. Ultimately, I'll probably make specific metahumans for each character, particularly as we come to cast them, and I'll start to add them in and make those specific. And we'll just be able to replace BP Tommy with BP Burke when I have a specific character for Burke. Okay, so let's get to time of day. Time of day currently, obviously it's daytime, It's probably, if the sun's over there, it's probably kind of 11, maybe 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. This scene's set at night. So one of the things that we do need to do is we're going to need to possess our ultra dynamic sky so that we can set it to be nighttime. And the way to possess an object from the outliner is we click on it in the outliner and we're going to go to add, actor track, add ultra dynamic sky. Now that has now made us as possessed ultra dynamic sky inside this level sequence. And what we're going to do is we're going to keyframe time of day, which adds our property in here, and then we're going to set it to what we want it to be. So if it's going to be nighttime, let's say 8 o'clock. Okay, so it's nighttime. All right. So we've possessed ultra dynamic sky. Now, just to clarify, I'm going to save our level sequence. I'm going to turn it off, and then watch what happens. So nothing. It didn't change back, right? It didn't change back. Well, that's an ultra dynamic sky issue. We have to hit refresh settings, then it will. It did return the time to the time I had it set. It was actually sort of, I don't know, 1:30. Just gone 1:30. We just had to hit refresh settings. If we open it up now, it goes back to being nighttime. So that's working as expected. That's fine. Now the other thing it mentions in the script, it mentions an explosion, right? Okay, so where's the explosion happening? The explosion for me currently, as I can best figure out, is probably going to happen here, and I'm going to put this into now. An explosion is going to be a one-off, right? It's not going to be used in every shot, obviously. So that's definitely an option for a spawnable actor. So I'm going to drag this down here. Now, when we drag this one in, it becomes spawnable. If we drag it directly into the sequencer, and it also appears over here at the world origin. So we need to move it now to where we want it to be. And because it's in sequencer, we can control it in here. So we're going to go event, where are we going? Niagara component, and then click on here, toggle track, and then trigger, and hit that, and then you see it does that. Okay, and then we get the smoke coming up. Right, so now if we play our scene, we'll let that dissipate. We play our shot, and boom, and then he falls down. Okay, cool. So we've got now possessable metahuman, spawnable camera, spawnable explosion, and possessed ultra dynamic sky to dictate the time of day. Another use of this technique is to move an object or hide an object that you don't want in the shot. So just for argument's sake, I'm just going to come over here. Let's say, for example, these sandbags that I've put on here are in the way for a certain shot. Like I need to get rid of them. Now on the day we can just move the sandbags, right? And it's fine. But generally speaking, I want the sandbags to be there. I just kind of need to clean them out a little bit so that I can get the shot working in Unreal Engine. And so for one of the things I might do is I might possess that sandbag. I can then either I can just move it. Let's say I just move it down a bit. Okay. Now if I save that and turn off sequencer, we'll see it pops back. I open it again and it goes back to where it was. So because we're just moving it the one time, we don't need to set a keyframe. It just does it. The other thing I could do is actually add an actor hidden in game node, and I can turn off its visibility. And again, if I close sequencer down, it comes back, open it back up, and it's gone again. All right. Now, and if I delete this from sequencer, it comes back because sequencer is no longer possessing it and telling it what to do. So in the creation of a shot, we've possessed a character, we've spawned a camera, spawned an effect, and possessed ultra dynamic sky to set the time of day. And that's an overview of what spawnable and possessable objects are in sequencer and where you might use them. So to clarify, if I can remember what I said was spawnable where possible, possessable when necessary. See you next time.